Welcome back to New York Comic Con Live, presented by Courtyard. I'm here with Joe Quesada, Chief Creative Officer of Marvel. Great to have you, Joe.
Thanks, great to be here.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting me sit down. I've been on my feet.
I'm sure it just must be so demanding, just never a moment of rest, right?
It's really comfy, man. I like it.
It is nice, right? I wish I could stay here all day.
I'm good.
Right on. So first off, I know we have a lot of ground to cover. Can you tell us a little bit about Marvel TV and what Marvel's doing in that space?
We're doing a lot of stuff in this space. When you consider where we were a few years ago,
right.
Before we launched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we had 0 hours on live television, or on television, and now we have Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, Daredevil, which is now going on to season 2. We have Jessica Jones, which premieres November 20th.
Oh, wow. November 20th. Awesome.
And we are currently working on Luke Cage. So we got a lot of television we went from 0 to 200.
And that amount of time is just absolutely insane. How has that been for the team?
I am very tired.
I imagine. And you must have your hands in every single one of these projects, right?
I dabble a little bit. Yeah, I'm involved with a wonderful team that we have at Marvel Television that's headed by Jeff Loeb and Dan Buckley and Jim Corey. The list goes on and people that we have that are just doing an amazing job.
Wow. Do you have any particular favorites? Am I allowed to ask you? Are you fond of any particular Marvel TV series in particular?
I'm fond of the one that's about to come out next. So I'm really excited about Jessica Jones coming out, only because, well, for many reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is that I think people will then understand that even though all these shows take place in the same universe and in the same sort of area of Hell's Kitchen,
right,
and they have a darker tone, they are radically different from the look of the show to the story that we're telling. So I think Jessica will demonstrate to fans exactly what we have in mind, and then they can start thinking about what Luke Cage may be like, which that is also a radical departure from the stuff that we're doing. But again, it'll all feel like a cohesive work.
That sounds all just different angles and this harmony, it's all coming together, so that's great.
That's the hope, yeah.
Wow, can't wait. November 20th for Jessica Jones, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And can we talk a little bit about the all-new, all-different Marvel?
Sure, absolutely. So, we have 60 number ones that are coming out.
60 of them.
60 of them. And but don't fret. These are a lot of the characters and some characters that haven't been around for a while. But the reason for the number ones is the fact that we wanted to give people a good jumping on point. So folks who have never read comics before or find it too daunting or have left comics a while ago, it's a great place to jump on and start off with the adventures of some of your favorite heroes and Avengers and some new ones and some that haven't been seen in a while.
Will all the stories just be completely new stories?
Well, yeah, they're good starting points for stories, but they're all within the same continuity.
Right. So now with all the different titles under Marvel, it must have been hard to pick 60 new and existing ones to kind of choose from. How do you choose which ones to kind of bring back and start fresh at number 1?
We have gigantic editorial meetings that occur 3 to 4 times a year. We have our writers come in, and it's all based on story and character prominence and what we think is really going to be the best thing for the line and for fans to get them into the Marvel universe.
When does this happen?
It's happening now.
Now, so right now, I can go to my local comic book store and grab some new number ones and just get right back on.
They're not all coming out in one day, but
thank God,
we are spreading them out over the course of weeks. But yeah, it started now. So
can you tell me a few the new ones? So the new.
Well, we're they have classic characters like Iron Man, that are relaunching with a number 1. Black Widow's getting her own book. Black Panther's coming back. Black Panther is probably the one that I'm most excited to read because we have acclaimed, award-winning. Can't give this guy enough accolades. Ta-Nehisi Coates is the writer of that Black Panther, and it's going to be his first foray into the world of comics. So we are thrilled to have him, and I can't wait to pick that book up.
That is exciting.
It's very, very exciting.
Now, with all the Marvel movies happening, how does that kind of play into this, the all-new, all-different Marvel? Does it, or does it not? Is it all separate?
No, they're separate universes. You'll see, obviously, just like our TV shows have the echo of what has happened in the comics.
Right.
Our comics echo what happens in the TV shows too, but they are essentially separate continuities.
So that sounds great. So for someone who's fallen in love with the TV shows, the movies, this is a great starting point to go in and just kind of
it is
fresh start and
absolutely is. That's the goal. We have so much stuff that's out there in the mainstream, and I think by just the attendance of the show, you could tell that more and more people are getting into genre and getting into comics and getting into Marvel. So, our goal is to continue opening the door for them and saying, it may appear daunting when you go into a comic shop and seeing all these books.
Right.
Here's a good place. Here's a good place to start. You don't have to buy all 60.
Right.
But, any store owner can guide you towards stuff, that you might really enjoy.
Right, yeah. Tell them about what you like, what movies you like maybe, and then kind of guide you like, oh, you'll probably like,
That's
like,
the goal.
So that is great.
Yeah.
So any other new series you're excited about? I think I have my notes. Miracle Man?
Miracle Man, yes. Miracle Man, Neil Gaiman is going to finish issue number 9, and he's going to continue from there with and finish that particular story,
right?
Which it's been decades that story's been hanging there. So
now I'm not familiar with Miracle Man. Could you give me like a synopsis of like what it's about?
Miracle Man, it's hard to put it in perspective looking at it today, but when it originally came out,
right,
it was probably the most earth-shattering story, and if you read all the reprints that we've recently released,
right,
by the writer whose name I cannot mention, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. But again, it may be tough to put it in a historical perspective because so much of what was done in that original series, was then picked, and influenced so many of the stories that came afterwards. So everything we read in comics today, so much of it was influenced by those early Miracle Man issues.
Right.
But it was originally published. Actually, it was published much earlier than the series. We've published some of the early stories that were done by Mick Anglo, who was the original creator of it was called Marvel Man back then.
Oh, right.
And then it went over and was republished. Or actually, the series was started again with the writer whose name I can't mention. And it was a darker and grittier take on it, and that was published by Warrior, and then later by Eclipse. And then the rights floated around for a while.
What a legacy!
I can't even do the story justice. There's actually books written on the crazy publishing history and the rights ownership issues of this particular character. So we're happy to have it at Marvel. We got it all, and we now own the character. It's part of our library. We started to republish all the old stuff, the Ming Anglo stuff, the later stuff that came in the 80s, and now Neil Gaiman had actually done a run on the book and was unable to, due to the rights issues with the character. I'm not actually sure exactly why it stopped, but
sure, right. Legally is whatever.
Around issue 9 is where he could not finish the story, so we will be continuing that story.
That's so. I'm sure for the many people who've been like hang on every thread, every note, every book.
If you've been a fan of this book, this is really it's a welcome end to at least this part of the saga, and then we're gonna see what happens from there.
And Andy, when we can expect
nothing I could talk about right now.
Oh my God, the mystery just doesn't end.
Yes, it's true.
So very cool. So can we talk a little bit about the the state of the comic industry? Like, how do you feel? I mean, like you're in this every day. You've been in it from for so long. Like, how do you feel things are going right now?
It's phenomenal. It's been a great run. When I started at Marvel, the company was in Chapter 11, and you would go to conventions, and these things were ghost towns.
Right.
And we started to grow our business. We all see how the comic industry has grown and how the convention business has grown.
Right.
But I think to me, the most wonderful thing about these shows are to see how diverse they're becoming.
Right.
It used to be maybe 80-20 men to women, 70-30. And now you look around, and I would argue it's at least 50-50.
Yeah.
So diversity has been a key to just, I think, the business in general and to Marvel in general, as our books become that much more diverse.
Wow. Like, how much of a role do you think like the movies have played in this kind of transformation?
I think the movies and television have certainly played a role in it. And especially because there's so many people that are closeted comic readers, and I think it's played a role in helping us come out and say, this is a cool medium, and the stories are epic, and it's been a great ride.
Very cool. My last question. Yes. Now that Spider-Man is back, like in the Marvel movies, like cinematic, area, like what does that mean for the comics or for the movies? Like what role will that play now?
Well, it's just good that we have control, some creative control over the character, and we'll see what happens. It's too early to tell.
It's an exciting time to be a fan of Marvel.
Thank you, man.
Joe, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add? Or?
No, I think we're good, man. Just
awesome.
Glad to be here.
Absolute pleasure.
And I'm going to stay on this couch. So.
Yeah, me too.
Right.